Hey everybody, I'm Sam Gross from electricbikereport.com, and in this video we're going to be talking about something that the Electric Bike Report staff has been waiting on for a little while now, and that's a new version of the ever popular Rad Power Bikes RadRover. Rad today is announcing the RadRover 6 Plus. It's the 6th version of their electric fat bike. It's their most popular model, it's their flagship model. And we're going to take you through a quick rundown of what's new, what you can expect to be changed between the old RadRover and the new one. So this bike is the RadRover 5. It is not the new one. We actually don't have a new one for testing yet. We've got one coming on the way, so stay tuned to our channel and we'll do a full overview of the new RadRover 6 Plus. But I did get a chance to talk with Rad about their new bike and what's changed. And the first thing, the most obvious thing, is it looks totally different from the previous RadRover 5. They've redesigned this bike from the ground up, re-engineered the frame to make it a little bit more visually appealing, looks a little bit more like a traditional fat mountain bike. And on top of that, they lowered the center of gravity. They've raked out the front end to make it a little bit more stable, a little less twitchy, a little more stable in corners. And they've also made the standover height a little bit lower, which makes it more accessible for folks who are on the shorter end of the height spectrum. They've also semi-integrated the battery into the frame, so you can see it protruding out of the down tube just a little bit. But more notably about what Rad has done with this new bike is they have, from the ground up, re-engineered the entire drive system. So this is the first time that Rad has ever holistically designed a controller, battery, and motor combination all at the same time to all work perfectly and seamlessly together. So the RadRover 6 Plus is going to retain a 750 watt rear hub geared motor, which is the same size motor that we saw on the RadRover 5, and then the same size battery, which is a 48 volt, 14 amp hour unit. What's changed though is they've managed to squeeze a little bit more range out of that 48 volt, 14 amp hour battery. And in the rear hub motor, Rad's actually cracked it open and they've tinkered with the gear ratio of the planetary gears inside, which has given the bike more low-end torque, and that's where we're finding the improved hill climbing ability. I'm told we can expect it to climb about 25% better than the RadRover 5. And the RadRover 5, we've tested this bike extensively. We've spent a lot of time on it. It already climbs pretty well. So I'm really curious to see what 25% more power is going to do on those hills. In addition to the motor and the frame upgrades, we also are having hydraulic brakes. The old RadRover 5 had mechanical disc brakes, so we're going to see an upgraded brake. Mechanical disc brakes are great to begin with, but hydraulic brakes are just better. In addition to that, we're seeing some other cool features, including a semi-integrated cable routing. So again, this is kind of getting into the weeds and bike geekness, but it's got a plastic cover on the down tube that snakes the brake cable and the rear derailleur cable inside of it, concealing it from the elements and making it just look a little more visually appealing. In addition to that, by not routing the cables through the frame, which we do see some companies do, it makes the bike easier to service. A mechanic can just unscrew that cover, access all the cables without having to chop them up and feed them through the frame again. I used to be a bike mechanic. It's a tough thing to do. Take my word for it. In addition to that, we're seeing an entirely new redesigned user interface on the handlebars. So instead of having one LED display in the middle of the bar, they actually have two now. So you've got one on the left side of the bar near your left hand that has a power button, a light button, and a way to control your power assist settings. And then in the center of the handlebar near the stem, you've got your traditional display that's got your speed readout, your distance readout, time, things like that. But Rad has gone and listened to their pretty sizable customer base and their network of dealerships, taken a little bit of feedback, and they've increased the size of the numbers in those readouts. So it's a little bit easier to read, a little bit easier to interact with. Another cool thing they've done, and actually which was one of our biggest gripes about the previous versions of the RadRovers, is they've taken the controller box, which, if you can see the bike behind me, it's a little black box right in front of the rear tire and up above the crankset. And they've taken that box, taken it from the outside of the frame and put it inside the frame. Not only does that protect it a little bit, it just looks better. So we're really happy to see Rad moving that around. So at the time of shooting this video, it's a couple of days before the actual release date, and we're still learning details about what is actually going to come on this bike. We don't know the specific drivetrain it's going to get or the brand of the hydraulic brakes, and it's not really worth us speculating in today's day and age. It is incredibly difficult for brands to get parts, so it could be a number of different companies they're supplying from, but it is worth pointing out that it is very likely going to be comparable, or if not a little bit better than what was on the RadRover 5, which was the Shimano Acera group set. In addition to that, you're going to see a little bit of a price increase on this new RadRover 6 Plus. That bike is going to retail at $2,000, which is a few $100s more than the previous RadRover 5, which retailed at $1,699. So a couple of $100 for what, in our opinion, is some pretty significant increases in quality. If you're like me and you've been paying a lot of attention to industry news, Rad's been getting a ton of investment. They are now using that money, pouring it into their Seattle-based design and tech departments, and they're doing a ton of work to make the new RadRover 6 just a totally new bike. And it's pretty impressive. I'm really excited to get some time on it. So if you want to dive a little bit more into the details of the new RadRover 6 Plus, we've got a first look right up in the description below this video. Leave us a comment. We love how this new RadRover 6 Plus looks. Let us know how you feel about it. Be sure to like the channel and subscribe, because we will have a full, in-depth, real-world review of the new RadRover 6 Plus as soon as we get a review model of the bike. So keep your eye on our space. We should have that coming soon. For Electric Bike Report, I'm Sam Gross. We'll see you next time.